So let's start this camera comparison where I usually end most camera comparisons, at night. And when I was coming up with the idea for this one, I was going to do the S22 Ultra versus the iPhone 14 Pro Max. The problem is so many people have already done that. So I started looking around for a worthy competitor for the iPhone 14 Pro Max, and I found one. A light bulb went off. I went to Germany with Vivo to look at the Carl Zeiss headquarters and behind the scenes of the collaboration between the two brands. And check this out, Apple have been making iPhones for 15 years, so that's 15 years of R&D into camera tech. Now Vivo have only been making phones since 2012, so that's 10 years. Zeiss have been making optics for 175 years. And pro photographers know that if you put a good bit of glass in front of a good sensor, that changes everything. And that's why I think the Vivo X80 Pro is the iPhone's kryptonite, and we're about to find out if that's true. And before we begin this, let me know which one you want to win, and at the end of the video, let me know which one you thought won. And now I just want to shout out the sponsor of this video, O2. If you follow smartphone tech, you'll know it moves fast. But do you know what doesn't move fast? A 3-year contract. And I'm not saying long contracts are bad. In fact, some of the plus plans right now on O2 are amazing, and they include this new feature. And honestly, this is a game-changing option from O2. It's a breath of fresh air. It's called Switch Up. As I mentioned before, Switch Up is already included in the plus plans, but if you want to bolt this on, it costs $3.99 a month. That's about the same price as a cup of coffee. When added to your account, you'll gain the ability to swap your old phone for a new one whenever you're ready. This means you can keep up with the latest smartphone tech year on year without having to stop and start your contract. There are no hidden costs or buyout fees. Of course, T's and C's do apply, so do read them. There'll be a link in the description below. One of the most important T's and C's is, of course, that your old device must meet the grading criteria. So as long as you haven't dropped it off a cliff or gone deep sea diving with it, you should be alright. But just to be sure, I suggest you check out the link in the description below and check out O2 Switch Up. Okay, here's picture one. It's a night shot with some street lights, and there's also some cars down the end there with their headlights shining straight towards me. But one of the things you'll notice straight away between the two phones is actually the Vivo X80 is doing far more post-processing, and because of that, we're getting a much brighter shot. It does have the higher megapixel count by 2 million pixels. It's a 50 megapixel sensor, but that doesn't necessarily make it better. But with the lens and the sensor together, I think what we're seeing here is a much more light sensitive photo, because if you look at the trees up in the top right hand side of the photo, they are incredibly detailed on the Vivo photo and pretty much non-existent on the iPhone photo. But here's the thing, if you look at the foreground on the iPhone 14 Pro Max photo, there's far more detail on the surface. And I think that's quite important with this kind of style photo, this kind of leading into the background. Now let's zoom into the background and see how much detail is actually back there on the two devices. So as you can see, the Vivo X80 Pro is actually doing a much better job of handling the bright parts of the photo. The headlights on the car that's at the end of the road aren't blown out as much as they are on the iPhone. And we're also getting some of that lens flare on the iPhone. And that goes back to what I was talking about with the lens technology from Zeiss. The ghosting or the lens flare, whatever you want to call it, isn't visible on the Vivo phone. Here's another photo taken with the night mode, and again we're seeing very different color balances here between the two phones. I actually like both photos. I do feel the iPhone's kind of orangey tone in the sky is definitely a more accurate representation of the light pollution that we all have in towns and cities. The Vivo photo is also pretty awesome. There is a slight blue color tint over everything, but let's zoom in and see what we're getting when it comes to details. I think honestly, the detail side of things is very, very close. Both phones are picking up the sort of studs around this container thing, whatever it is. You see the color differences. The iPhone's slightly more contrasty and the Vivo is brighter. It's a tough one again. Let me know what you think about this particular photo. And here's another one. This one really tests the HDR at night because there's a light bulb right there in the foreground. And you can see the Vivo is actually doing a better job of controlling that light. Maybe that's affecting the tint over the back of the photo because we're getting that bluish green hue over the white areas of the artwork there. The iPhone again is leaning more towards the warmer tones. If I had to pick one here, I'd probably lean towards the iPhone, but we are seeing some ghosting in the image. And again, that's an area where Zeiss specialize in making lens coatings that reduce that, and that's probably why we don't see it here on the Vivo photo. So here's a kind of landscape shot, and I don't know if you guys watched any of my previous camera comparisons, but this was a building site just a couple of months ago. It was just like frames of buildings. Now it's almost done by the looks of it. But one thing you'll notice here is how much detail the phones can pick up, and you can see loads of areas where the iPhone cannot see anything, and the Vivo is like daylight almost. And take a look at the sky as well. You can see the kind of textures in the clouds as well, a lot clearer on the Vivo X80 Pro. Again, I think that might be the bigger megapixel count combined with the arguably better lens technology. But again, both photos look very good. I do feel the more natural colors go to the iPhone. The brighter and more detailed image is definitely with the Vivo. Again, if I'd have taken this without the night mode on the Vivo, maybe we would have seen a similar photo to the iPhone. Here's another example of where lens coatings and lens technology can actually reduce lens flare. If you see those kind of two circles around the iPhone photo, that's probably two of the lenses in the camera module on the iPhone that are letting light kind of slip out, whereas it's far more contained on the Vivo photo. I think a lot of people don't realize that it's not just megapixel count or image sensor. The camera lens modules and the configuration and the coatings and what they're made of all impact image quality. And check this one out. This is me sitting on a step feeling sorry for myself, because every time I ask people to subscribe in my videos, they'd be like,
No, I don't think I will.
all right, let's do a video stabilization test followed by some slow-mo. All right, so this is the ultra stabilization test. This phone has a gimbal in it, so it should have the advantage, but the iPhone has some new software for steady video. So we'll see how it compares. So let's run full sprint with the phone in hand and let's see how well it does. And now it's time for the iPhone with the new action mode. Let's see how it compares. Sprint with the phone in hand. Let's go. Okay, so this is kind of the mic test and the selfie video quality test. This is 4K 30. Let me know how the mics sound here. And I feel like I should really elaborate a bit more on the collaboration that Vivo have made with Zeiss, because I think some people think that it's just the fact that they put their name on the phone in order to sell a few more units, but that is not the case. Okay, so this is one area where the iPhone certainly has the advantage, because the Vivo can only shoot 1080 30 on the front facing selfie camera. And what I was trying to get at before with the Vivo Zeiss collab is the way that it works is actually Zeiss will test the lenses for Vivo. So Vivo will make a bunch of lens configurations, a whole tray load of them, ship them out to Germany. Vivo will then put them to the test in a shooting gallery and pick out the best ones. And also Vivo are responsible for lens coating. So the lenses that are kind of stacked up inside the phone have coating on them to allow the light to funnel through more precisely. I forget what the exact percentage was, but it was a massive percent of light that's lost if you don't have these coatings. And Zeiss are the master of those. But the collaboration goes even further, because Zeiss actually helped tune the MPU. So there's a dedicated chip in the Vivo X80 which handles image processing. And Zeiss has spent a great deal of time fine-tuning the colors so that they're as lifelike as possible. So let me know, do you like the lifelike photos, or do you want things to look a bit more enhanced? Yes, that is really me. And I found this really new skin moisturizer, if you're wondering. Okay, yeah, that's the beauty mode. Here's a real selfie. So Apple have stuck with the 12 megapixel sensor on the front camera, and the Vivo have gone with the 32 megapixel sensor in a punch hole configuration. When it comes to overall detail in the photo, I think the iPhone wins. I will say when it comes to the colors, my face seems to be a bit redder than it actually was that day. I think my skin tones are more accurate on the Vivo X80, but if you look at the sky, the iPhone clearly is picking up far more detail and delivering more accuracy in the clouds, and also around the edges of the photo as well. On the Vivo X80, the details are far softer. And again, this is me practicing but failing to pull a good YouTuber face. I just can't do it. I don't know why I can't do it. And listen guys, when I'm out in the fields and I'm doing these camera comparisons for you guys, I am sacrificing my time. And on this particular occasion, I got shit on. So I hope you guys can appreciate my sacrifice. And when I tell people about this happening to me, they're like, well, that's good luck. I don't know what kind of crazy multiverse planet we're living on here where getting shit on is good luck. Because to me, it's definitely the opposite. Anyway, check this out. This is a controller from Defy Gaming. They make modded controllers, and this particular design here is a collaboration with Pope Art. They have these really interesting designs. They don't just make Xbox controllers, they make PlayStation controllers and a bunch of other different style ones. I did do a review of one of their Pro controllers for the PlayStation 5, but what we're looking at here is the actual image itself, and you can see it's actually far sharper on the iPhone and a bit softer here on the Vivo X80. And I was using the Zeiss mode on the X80, so I think what we're actually seeing is a better accuracy when it comes to colors. With the iPhone, we're seeing a slightly more enhanced saturation, which does look pretty awesome, I must admit. And it does seem to be a sharper image too on the iPhone. And some people don't like over sharpening when it comes to photography. You've even got the color chips in the back to reference as well. Let me know which one you think is better. Now, when I was out and about and I was walking around, I saw this purple wildflower. I thought, oh, that looks nice. Let's take a macro. And when I zoomed in, I was like, God damn, this thing's full of flies. Gross. But let's get a closer look and see if the Vivo can match the iPhone when it comes to macro quality. And you know what? To my surprise, it does. And not only does it match it, I think in this particular shot, it actually beats it. Now, I wasn't convinced that this was going to be the case every time, so I did take another macro. So let me know what you think of this one. So here's another daylight shot, and this was in very good lighting conditions, and it's of the dog, and I think you'll see straight away that the iPhone is far sharper when it comes to details. What's interesting here is I think actually this time the Vivo has enhanced the colors and the iPhone seems more natural. Now let's test the different lenses that we have on the phone. So this is the primary camera. This is the 2X, and I think the 2X on the iPhone does look better to me. And this is the ultra wide. They are incredibly close, I have to say. They're very well matched, these two phones. And here is me, once again, trying to do a YouTuber face and failing. I don't know why I can't do it, I just can't do it. So let me know guys in the comments below, which one of these phones do you think is better when it comes to photos and why? And if you want to see how the iPhone 14 Pro Max compares to the iPhone 13 Pro Max, there's a thumbnail on screen right now, go check that out. And if you want to check out my Vivo Zeiss video, that's also on screen as well. That was a fun one, check that out. And I'll see you guys in the next one, so don't be late.
No. No, I don't think I will.